Hi, I'm Mike Malasani.
And I'm John Goodacre.
And we are Infinity Path. We're an application that seeks to randomize the path between 2 points so that our users can more thoroughly explore their surroundings with very limited effort.
So the screen you see here is the sign-in screen. This is the first thing you'll see. It's fresh off an install in the emulator. This sign-in is actually provided to us by Firebase Alt UI, which we felt was a good choice because we're already using Firebase for the database. They provide a surprising amount of options for login between Facebook and Twitter, although we're only using Google services and signing with email and password here. And it just seems very friendly. If you're already logged into the device, it'll prompt you with your Google account. So overall, it's just a breeze to use for us and the user. The next thing you'll see here is a prompt asking you for your location, which you can maybe see there's a map in the background, and in fact, to really do anything in our app, you're going to need to share your location. So this location service and map are both coming to us via Mapbox API, which we use for the bulk of this project.
So at first we said we were going to be using Google, but we made the design choice to switch after doing a little bit more research. When we found Mapbox, we realized that it gave a lot more flexibility, whereas Google really limits you to make sure that you don't copy their apps. So we chose to use Mapbox to not limit ourselves, and we were really happy with the choice. We were able to implement turn-by-turn navigation in a drawer. We were able to map directly on the map with all sorts of different colors and different waypoint markers. So overall, we really are glad that we made that decision to switch.
So we're Infinity Path, so let's go ahead and make a path. The first thing you'll see are these 3 radio buttons where you can select your type of path. It doesn't really matter what the user wants to do, if they want to walk or run or bike on the path. We allow any of those options. So what do we want to select, Mike?
I think we're going to bike today.
All right. And then we can go ahead and select our origin and destination. Maybe let's pick Northeastern for the origin. That's where we're sitting right now. And then what do you want to do for the destination?
I'm thinking Fenway.
All right. Let's go ahead and do Fenway. Now, you might notice there's a few other options underneath, 2 sliders, but now that we've picked an origin and destination, the path has already actually been created, so we can drop that down and take a look, and we see a path from Northeastern to Fenway. It looks about right to me.
Looks pretty good.
So
could be better.
Maybe this is all you want. Maybe you just want a simple path from start to finish. So we can go ahead and click Start now, but we're actually going to go in and change those other options that we saw before. So
this gets to the real bulk of our model, the part that we're really excited to show off. So this first slider here adjusts the waypoint. So waypoint is essentially an intermediate marker between the starting point and the destination. So we'll add a few markers here. As we can see, it's got a couple notches. So we'll add a few, and then we'll take a look at how that adjusted the map. So now we see we've kind of perfectly dissected this map up into equal segments, and the line is trying its best to kind of pass through them.
Right. Mapbox immediately responded and recalculated routes because it's making sure that it can take us from our start to our finish while going through each of the waypoints that are now added on the map.
So we've added a little bit of randomness to our map, but this is still just a straight line between the points with a couple intermediate spots in between. We really want to kick it up just a little bit more, and that's where our next slider comes in.
Right. If it had been a straight street, it would have taken you just down one street from start to finish through those waypoints.
So now we'll take the variance up. This is just a slider between 2 fixed amounts that we can add to offset from our perfect positions in that line. So instead of getting a straight line when I lower this drawer, we should see a little bit of variance. In fact, we see a lot of variance. We're going quite a few different directions. Luckily, Mapbox does provide a way so that when you go through a point, you can say that you'd like to carry on through it rather than make an immediate U-turn. But sometimes you still end up with a little bit of difficulty when you're randomizing by as much as we just did.
Right. We can't promise it's pretty. We can promise it's random and that Mapbox will get you from place to place.
Right. So now that we have all these points on the screen, we might think, oh, you know what? I would actually like to go around the bend here at Fenway. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say that that node needs to stay. I'm going to go ahead and click it, centers on the screen, and we see a different UI pop up, giving us the opportunity to toggle it. So once we toggle it, what we're saying is that is now a locked node, and every other node on our map needs to react to that locking. So now if we go back in and we change our variance a little bit back to the original point, we should see that it's perfectly dissected again between those points. And while we want a random path, we still want to do it in a planned and orderly fashion. So we only try to create the least dense possible nodes between all of our nodes here. So that's why they still don't look overpopulated on one side versus the other. And we can still transition that later by choosing to up the variance level.
Essentially, you can use the waypoint count slider and the variance slider to introduce randomness, and then you can use the locking feature to introduce more flexibility in how you want to go along that path.
And if you ever want to add more points to different locations with a more planned approach, you can click into one of your locked nodes and then relocate it. So relocating brings up that same autocomplete that we had before. So let's say we want to go to the commons now. And as we can see, that takes us all the way to the commons while still dissecting our points up in an orderly way. And we can always add more if we feel like we want it to be just a little bit more random.
So I think this is a good path. Why don't we get started on this?
I think so too. We needed a little bit more data in our database before we continue to show our history view. But while the second path is going on, I will bring attention to one of the phone-specific features that we use, and that is foreground services, the ability to notify a user that something is going on even when your application is not the thing that's taking up their screen. So we'll see that right now we're on a path and we may leave the path at some point, but we get this little notification that tells us that we are still currently on the path and we're still being tracked. So we're going to go back into our application now and see that that timer is still going on.
So now we're on the path, and normally it wouldn't just sit here looking at the path as it is now. Unfortunately, we're on the emulator and it thinks we're in San Francisco, so our GPS coordinate is not where our path is. You'll just have to trust us on that. We encourage you to test this on an actual device with GPS. What Mike has pulled up here is the directions for this path, and it's actually navigating step-by-step directions from each waypoint to the next, so you make sure you hit every point on this path.
So now we're feeling pretty good about this path. We're going to end it. See the timer stops and we get the opportunity to rate our path. So this is a pretty okay path. We'll give it a 3. So now we've created a couple of paths in our database that we can show off in our trip history. So trip history is a nifty place to show you where you've been and what you did on that particular trip. So as we've said, we didn't really move here, so a lot of these will be pretty boring for the time being and just take a couple of minutes of our time without really going anywhere, but you'll get the gist of what we're trying to show here.
Right, so we can see a little card here showing the basic details of our app. We have the distance, we have the time we spent on that, we have our speed calculated from the distance and time, of course. We have our rating, we have the little icon indicating what type of activity it was, and then in the corner we have a little circle arrow thing that's saying we can restart this path anytime we want. So for this one, it was 5 stars, we loved it. Maybe instead of generating a new random path, we just want to go back on that one.
And once we start that, it's important to know that in our data structure, we made it so that it's always offset differently than the last one. So no path will truly ever be the same. So if we go ahead and start that, we'll see it regenerated one of the paths that we've already been on, and we have the opportunity to start it. Right now, we'll give it a quick go, but we're going to jump back into that history view now.
Liked it less than last time.
All right. So now that we're back in this view, you'll see the map expands out to show you your entire path and where you've been. In our case, again, we're in San Francisco, so it just shows the entire continental United States. But what it doesn't show right now is our filter drawer, again, hiding that information until it's absolutely necessary to show it to the user. So you'll see here we have a couple of different options for how we can show different things to the user in case they want to filter this list. So I'm looking at that one card right there that has 3 stars. Maybe I only care about the ones I gave 4 or higher. So we'll click on this star button here that shows 4, and we should see that that 3-star one is now gone, and we only have ones that are 4 and higher. We can also filter by the activity type, the date, which pulls up a nice little calendar for us to select from. A lot of filter options.
So that's the basic functionality of our app. We spent a lot of time making sure that this core functionality existed for the user. We feel like it provides them with a lot of opportunity and flexibility to go out there, enjoy their paths, whether it's running, biking, walking, just get out there and enjoy those random explorations. We, of course, would love to do more with this app, explore more avenues for user engagement, but we kind of ran out of time at the end. We were just about to implement something for a level up system where users would gain experience points each path they go on, maybe more experience points the more random or further the path is.
And certainly losing a team member halfway through the semester didn't help us, but we're really happy with how far we came and how much we were able to implement given those circumstances. We think we have a really awesome application here, and we hope that you guys enjoy it too. Thanks.
Thanks.